Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Brave Maker online experience. My name is Tony Gapastione, and I get to be the founder and the executive director of Brave Maker. And wow, week 10 or 11, whatever it is, of shelter in place. And we are at the end of May here. And I wanted to do a live video. We actually were supposed to do a filmmaker chat today, but things had to get rearranged. And I wanted to quickly communicate a apology because we Brave Maker had a snafu that didn't happen. We've been doing this for almost 10 weeks now, and everything has been running smoothly. And then yesterday, after hours and hours of work and coordination and organization, we, with our filmmakers, had to get things changed up. And so we apologize to all of our subscribers. You got an email yesterday with the hopes to be able to watch a couple films. And then we had to pull those because our filmmakers were a little concerned about piracy. And we own that because we had thought we had communicated everything we needed to communicate. And one small thing kind of threw a wrench and all that stuff. So we'll work to improve and make sure that does not happen again. You will get an email if you are on our subscriber list today with an updated slate of films that will be available for you to watch for free, and then we will talk with those said filmmakers on Friday here live. So again, go to bravemaker.com/buzz if you are not on that subscriber list. And if you've already subscribed, I felt so bad because I got a handful of emails, some that I've been able to respond to, some that I have not, who wanted to watch the films and were wondering what had happened. And so I'll tell you what, one thing that this did tell me is people do read their emails. So thank you for that. Sometimes you do all this work and you're like, is it doing any good? Does anybody care? Is anybody watching? We see the numbers, we see the reports, but we don't know, like, are they real? So they're real when you hear from your patrons that you missed out or you didn't get what you needed. And so I see that and hear that. I'm sorry. I'm also thankful that so many of you care for Brave Maker and for our work, because our work exists to elevate brave stories for justice, diversity, and inclusion. And although we don't have films to discuss today at this very moment, we are going to have another special discussion. So stand by for that. So also, before I welcome my co-host today, I want to say thank you to one of our sponsors, Premia Capital in downtown Redwood City. You know, we are a 501c3 nonprofit, and we cannot do this work without support. I was just super grateful that Premia came on with us early on before the pandemic stuff started and has been able to stay with us throughout. So a huge thank you to Premia and to Nikon and to Redwood City Parks and Arts Foundation, and currently the Jacques M. Littlefield Foundation gave us a grant that is going to be matched. So if you can, would you consider donating to our nonprofit, because all of the donations will be matched up to $25,000 this month. There's only 1 week left of this month. So I would appreciate that. Our team appreciates that. I have heard of some sad news of some organizations that aren't able to move forward, and that makes me just, concerned. And for the arts, especially arts organizations, take a hit. We definitely want to support first responders and those who are helping those in under-resourced communities with things like food and shelter. So gosh, I bless that, where all those monies go to that. At the same time, I hope we can support the arts, which are just as viable to help us cope and process and heal and grieve and escape and find the entertainment we need. So you can go to bravemaker.com/donate to give today. Everything will be matched. We're looking for some more corporate sponsors and some more individual donors. The donors can give one-time gifts or become a monthly donor, like give 5, 10, 1,000 a month. Whatever you can give would be greatly appreciated. So let me welcome my co-host and my friend, Krystina Jackson. Hi, Krystina.
Hello. Thank you, Tom, for having me.
As always. Yeah, Krystina has been a part of the Brave Maker community for over a year now. So glad that we connected actually at a Brave Maker event. Our headquarters is in Redwood City. We rent an office from a church building, and we use this church building for a screening of a documentary called I'll Push You, which was about two best friends who went on a 60-day hike. One of them happened to be in a wheelchair, and my friend Krystina came to that event in her crown and all her glory because she was Miss Wheelchair 2018. And
that
so
is Hey, that was so wonderful. That was my one of my first red carpet events, and I got to meet you there. And I almost didn't make it to that event. I actually had pneumonia, and I was very much under the weather. And my good friend and mentor, Fernanda Castillo, insisted I had to meet Tony, and I had to meet Tony, and I did. And we've been working together ever since, and rocking and rolling. And the arts keep me going. So absolutely, if you're in a position to donate and support Brave Maker, please do. Yeah, you can definitely check out my website, see what I'm up to. As far as the arts go, I'm a writer, I'm an actor, I'm a singer, and I'm home doing self auditions and writing a comic book, and we have actually just joined the Brave Maker podcast family. And Christine Burke, Miss Wheelchair California 2020, and myself will be launching a podcast this summer. Have not settled on a name yet. We've played around with some ideas. Yeah.
So I don't know if you heard that, but yeah, this is actually the teasing out of some new things that Brave Maker is trying to expand on. So because of the pandemic, obviously we don't have our live events. By the way, Lisa from Kansas says hello. I love that. Hi, Lisa. If you're watching, we welcome you to pitch in questions, thoughts. We'll happily engage with them along the way. But Brave Maker, we're just about hitting our second year of life, and we have been really focused in this niche of public screenings and film festivals. Well, obviously, those are not here for some time. We thought we were going to have our film festival in September. We have not made an official announcement yet, but as things look, we're not sure about that. It might be a smaller scale down experience, not as big as we had in the past, but we'll see. But because of the reality of not having events publicly, we have to find different ways to tell stories and elevate brave storytellers. And one of the things that we're also trying to raise money for is we want to build our own back end to our website where we can host more content, more media that would be protected as filmmakers. I think Vimeo links and stuff, I'm a filmmaker. I've used them for years upon years. I think they're completely safe. And as my friend Alex Ferrari from Indie Film Hustle says, when you get pirated, that means you've made it. So sometimes piracy isn't a bad thing, but I'm not too worried about it, but I know some filmmakers are, and I respect that and want to honor those wishes. So we do need to find an alternate way to host our filmmakers and possibly even distribute some of this content that is being made and these documentaries and narratives, short and feature length. So your donations will actually help us build that. But the other thing that we're trying to do is expand our podcast presence.
Yeah.
So we have the Holy Cannoli podcast, which is my personal podcast around faith and spirituality, the sacred and the strange. But we also have the Brave Maker podcast. And the Brave Maker podcast is a podcast in which Krystina has participated on. But these are all under the umbrella of Brave Maker. So if you're into faith type of things, you can go and check that out. If you are into talking about screenwriting and scripts and storytelling, you can go check out the Brave Maker podcast. Now, what's interesting about our hope for the podcast space is that we would be able to support storytellers like Krystina Jackson and Christine Burke, which is so funny. They both have similar names. They're both Miss Wheelchair Californias, but we want to, launch out into the space where people can, hear the storytellers and hear dialogue and interviews with people. So, Krystina, talk a little bit about, obviously there's no name yet, but talk about what you and Christine are thinking about when it comes to the stories and conversations you want to have on the new podcast that's coming out under Brave Maker.
Absolutely. So I'm so excited to be collaborating with Christine Burke. She is also an actor. She's in the arts. She's a theater person. She has a background in so much of the area of writing and everything that comes together with putting on a fantastic show, which she actually did, I want to say last weekend. She did a Disney sing-along show, and she put that whole thing together, which is so amazing because she's doing her reign virtually. So I can only imagine how difficult that is, and I think she's doing a spectacular job of bringing the arts using Instagram Live. But our show, we definitely will be talking about disability. Like, I think our tagline might be putting disability back in diversity. So we're definitely going to be tackling a lot of disability issues, but also the arts and how it impacts our community, what we're doing in the arts. Just another little teaser, we will be acting out scenes. So that should be really cool. And we just want the show to be really lively, really interactive, and really informative about what life is like for people with different abilities in the arts and just in general. So it should be it's going to be fun.
Krystina, I know that we have talked a little bit about sort of the direction that it's. By the way, you see me like patting my face. I'm like sweating. It's so hot in California. I don't know what it's like in Kansas, Lisa, but we are sweating here. I have no air. You can't do a fan because it would block the sound. Anyway, so forgive my my southern pat over here.
Yeah. It's like 96 degrees here.
Mamma mia.
Yeah.
So we've talked a little bit about sort of the direction of your podcast, and Jessica Musgrave, who is on our Brave Maker team, said she's excited to see what you're going to do on the podcast. I know the first episode or two, you're going to talk a little bit about your stories, right? And what your stories look like and how this intersects into the narrative of disability and the arts and diversity. What do you think, for you right now, as you're kind of looking at your life? I know, I work closely with you, so I know that there's a lot of stuff you have going on. Like, you're spinning a lot of plates, in your advocacy work, in your artistic work. Can you just bring up to speed our viewers and listeners about some of the things that you're doing? I know you just booked a role in a feature film coming up, but yeah, just share a little bit more about the work that you're doing in your platform.
I did. So first and foremost is always advocacy. And just recently I got to do a fundraiser for the Byron Rustin Coalition out of San Francisco, which is championing equality. You and I are going to get into it a little bit later, racial inequality. And just to backtrack a little bit back to the podcast, so Christine Burke is white and I am black, and we are coming together and we will be tackling the tough issues, not just disability related, but race related, in regards to women, what life is like just being different. Another little thing I will say, Christine was born with a different ability. I was injured at 19. So we're going to try to marry these very different backgrounds together in an effort for people to understand who we are, and just to understand the importance of equality across the board, so that we're all on equal footing and we don't have these stories that we've been reading in the news lately. So I'm doing the self auditions. I just landed a role. I'm really excited about that. We're shooting this summer sometime in San Francisco. I just finished the first very rough draft of a comic book. Should I say the title? Should I wait?
Yes, say it.
Okay, so I wrote a comic book called Minty, the Adolescent Adventures of Harriet Tubman. And I'm very excited about that. And I included a mission statement, which I don't know if people do for books, but I have a business background, so I always do a mission statement. And my objective for this comic book is to end racism. At the very least, start the conversation. And it's wild, everything that's going on now. And it felt kind of like reaching to write that, but I was like, that's in your heart. It's been so heavy on my heart. And I know it seems unattainable to so many, but so did slavery. Many never believed that slavery would come to an end. And so I just have to believe that we can end racism and we can do it together.
Brave Maker, if you're just tuning in, Brave Maker's mission is to elevate brave stories for justice, diversity, and inclusion. And if you have a story in which you're trying to write and get on the page, we do have a weekly Zoom workshop at 3 p.m. on Thursdays, Pacific time. You can go to our website to find out more information about that, or just give me an email, and I'm happy to give you some more information about that. But we definitely want to develop storytellers like Krystina, who are trying to get these stories to bring awareness and to help people take action.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Class. Well, I was just saying the workshop's fantastic. I'm in the class. Christine Burke's in the class. We're all in there, and it is a very safe space to learn and grow at whatever stage you're in. I'm super green. This is the first time I've ever written anything like a script, because it is a comic book. I wrote it in a script form first. But we're just all there together learning and growing, and Tony leads the way, and we're glad to have his expertise.
Yeah. Hey, we've got somebody who's giving you a little nudge. Can you say the name of the movie you're going to be in? That
So,
might be the director. That might be the director of the movie you're going to be in. Who's asking?
the Stowe Lake film is the feature. Is it a feature film? Is that what
Feature film, Ghost of Stowe Lake.
learning my lingo? Yeah, so it's gonna be a fantastic film, and I don't know if someone could like type this into the chat. I think I just stumbled upon the slave who I don't know how much I don't know how much you'd want me to say, but there's a myth, about a slave that haunts a certain area of San Francisco. I'll put it that way, but it's based on a true person, a slave that escaped, came to the West Coast, was successful in the gold rush, became a millionaire, if you could even imagine, so it should be awesome. I'm very excited. I'm so excited.
So Nicole, who is chiming in right now, you see her name there. She put the link to her film.
Fake movie.
Yeah, so we're going to promote that film. This is the beautiful thing about the creative industry. Relationships are so important. And Nicole was on one of our Brave Maker calls a couple weeks ago talking about the film. I said, hey, have you casted all of your parts for this Ghost of Stowe Lake film? And she said, no. I said, I have somebody I'd love you to consider. Bing, bang, boom. Krystina gets a role in this full-length feature film. So yeah, if you're unfamiliar with terms, there are short films, usually 45 minutes or less. Most short films are 20-ish minutes. But if a film is 44 minutes and 59 seconds, that's considered a short film. If it's 45 minutes and 1 second, it's considered a feature film. It's kind of weird. But so short films are obviously short in length. Feature films are long in length, usually an hour and a half, 2 hours. Then you've got your documentary, which are about true stories, and your narrative, fictional narrative, which are fiction or based on true stories, but not quite. Okay, so thank you, Nicole. And you've got her saying Mary Ellen Pleasant needs her own movie. Is that who you're talking about? There you go.
Okay, that's very cool. Okay.
There you go.
Okay, so I'm excited.
So Nicole and Krystina are going to be working together. I'm really excited about that. Nicole is the writer-director.
And what's really cool about The Ghost of Stowe Lake? It's literary fiction, and that's kind of the arena that I'm in right now. So I like that. It gives you a little leeway, but it makes it like so intriguing. Like what? She did that.
She did it. So go follow Nicole. Thanks for chiming in, Nicole, and putting the link to your film. I'm excited that you two get to work together, and it all happened because of Brave Maker. So so we're about storytelling. If you're just tuning in, I'm Tony Gapastione, and we are trying to impact culture here. The work, it's work. It's a good work. It takes a lot of work, as I was saying earlier when we started. Even just getting out our emails every week, collecting all the information, our team trying to communicate to filmmakers. It is an undertaking, and we're doing it because we love it. We love film. We love the power of the arts to impact culture. Thanks to Robertino, who's on our team as well, saying hello, you rock. We want to keep doing this work, and the work of diversity, justice, and inclusion does take a toll. And I want you, as you listen here, to stay with us, because Krystina and I wanted to talk, since we didn't have the films to discuss today, right here at this hour here on Wednesday, when we're doing this, we wanted to just talk about just current events, because Brave Maker exists to make us aware, but also help us to take action, to become more just humans, more inclusive people, more diverse beings who share the space empathetically, lovingly, graciously, kindly with others. So, and we know that this conversation is not easy to have when we talk about racism, when we talk about anti-Blackness, when we talk about headlines that are on the news. I think it even costs relationships to have these conversations with anybody. I know putting this stuff out on social media, it could cause an aversion, to some people, and it ruffles feathers, and I totally get that. And there's often ways that we can mince words and have miscommunications. And so I want to try to speak plainly and humbly for things that I know I need to learn today. things I'm hoping if you're watching this, either live or on the replay, that you and all of us can become active in the fight to treat all people with equity, especially people with brown and black skin. So this has been an interesting week. We've had two different stories. One coming out of Central Park in New York, where a white woman, accused a black man of threatening her, who was just simply asking her to put her dog on a leash in an area where dogs were supposed to be on leash to protect the wildlife, specifically the birds in that area. And the man, Chris Cooper, was bird watching. And I'm not going to name her name. I'm not going to show the video today or show pictures, even of anything, because I know these things can be traumatic, especially to the black community. But what I do want to comment in on this first story is white privilege and white supremacy. And these stories, we need to take heart. As a white person, I take responsibility for the way that my words can literally affect death upon a black person's life, by making a phone call in which I accuse a black person of harm. And if you haven't seen this story, look it up. Look up Chris Cooper, Central Park. It'll come up. But Krystina, you posted about this. I think your post was, "We can't even watch birds now,"
Yeah.
Or something to that effect. You made a little joke about it, but there's weight to that, right?
There's a tremendous weight and humor, for Black people. Not that I'm going to speak for everyone, but for myself, it's how, we deal with challenging situations. But yeah, it's like we can't even bird watch. Like, this is something so just simple in the park. You think about areas that you should avoid as a Black person and things that you shouldn't do, not to incite someone who is racist, like the woman with the dog, from doing something that could cost you your life. Like, that's always on the forefront of our mind. And that's actually what I was posting about on Facebook. It's like, we're all here now together, a global pandemic, and people are suffering. They feel isolated and lonely and afraid, and there's so much stress, and you don't know where you can go and if it's safe, and you could just go to the grocery store and it could cost you your life. And saying that now is like, oh my God, that's horrendous. And it is horrendous. But that's how Black Americans have been living every day for hundreds of years. Can't go to the grocery store, you can't go for a jog, and now we can't even birdwatch. So it's gone too far. And what I want to do is just, if you have been shying away, turn squarely really and face what's going on now with racism, face the inequality across the board for everyone, and really take a position, because saying that, well, I'm not racist, and then ignoring the issue, are you part of the solution or part of the problem? I think now that we have this time and we are alone, we should all really try to dig deep and look in the mirror and look at ourselves and look at our beliefs and our biases and our prejudices, because we're all, capable of doing things that are what we would feel beneath us, not in alignment with our morals and our values. And so we should keep that, in the forefront of our mind, but really just take a stand against racism and say, I am an anti-racist. Mm-hmm. Not that I'm just not a racist. I don't condone what they're doing. No, I'll stand up and say, this isn't right. This is why, and this is the direction we should be moving in. Mm-hmm. And I think I sent you like an image of a book that I stumbled upon. I just started it earlier today. It's called How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram X. Kendi. And it's very interesting. And I think since we're all home, my suggestion would be, and this is what we do here at our house, we get the books on Audible. We got Becoming by Michelle Obama on Audible, and we just come together as a family and we listen. We're all in the house together. It's something everyone could do together. And we take notes and we listen, we have a conversation. And that is where I think the end of racism is going to come from. People like you and I having this conversation.
Conversations are necessary, and to do it humbly, right? To be able to say, like, so me as a white person, I need to listen. I need to acknowledge where my defenses rise up, because at one point I might have heard you say you can't, go to the grocery store, and I might have like shrugged that off and go, oh, come on, you're overreacting. I might have done that. Like,
that's the denial.
And
you can't do that anymore.
And I'm really hoping and asking for my white community to stand up, to speak out about this, to recognize how we as white people can weaponize a person with black or brown skin just with our words. And also recognize, like, these videos that we've seen time and time again, these pictures of black bodies devastatedly beaten or whatever. I don't even want to use those words. I don't want to cause more trauma and oppression in people's lives. But do we care? You know, I heard I'll just quote my friend Andre Henry, not quote him, but acknowledge he was talking yesterday, and he doesn't think white people care about the black violence. And I think he's right. I think there's a sense of, not are we numb to it, but I think it's just too easy to turn the channel. It's too easy to ignore it. It's too easy to not acknowledge that these things are happening and hope that they go away, but we can't anymore. You know, to my white community, we have to speak out. We have to bring awareness. We have to protest. We have to this is not okay. And we have to care. Go ahead.
And I think that what people do, I want to go back to an event when we were all still able to gather, and we got to watch Burden. And Burden, you know, was addressing racial inequality. And you had a white person who was a white supremacist, and you had a black minister. And they came together and achieved something remarkable. And that happened, was that in the 70s that took place? Because it's based on a true story.
It was the 90s.
That was the 90s. Okay.
Yeah, 20 years ago, yeah.
90s, and they came together to achieve something, and they had to put their differences aside. And it was, if you haven't seen this film, when you have the opportunity to, you have to see Burden. And it was tremendous what they did, what they had to face, their fears that they had to face of imminent danger for their own lives, both of them, the white and the black men in the movie. But I think white people care. I know black people care. And I think what the issue is, we don't know what to do. And when we don't know what to do, we just want to look the other way, because it's just like, you know, like I'm frustrated with this. I'm growing numb with this. Like what's going with the coronavirus. And no one knows what to do. And so sometimes it's like you wake up in the morning and it's like, am I getting out of bed? Like, for what? What can I do to have an impact on this issue? People feel just as helpless when it comes to racism. Well, what could I possibly do to put an end to racism? Like, it's been here for so long. It's never going to go away. And I say start with education. You have this time. We are staying at home. You have so much time to give yourself a world-class, like, self-education and really just start understanding racism to really understand how to combat it.
I'm so glad that you brought that up. There was an article that was going around again this week, yesterday, today. It's like 3 years old. I remember when I first saw it, I had a different response to it. I felt like, what can I do? This seems so overwhelming, but now I'm way more motivated. It's by Corinne Sheddick, and this is for white people, 75 things white people can do for racial justice. We will post this in the chat, and I will encourage you all, white people, to list and find things. And I'm also going to address that in the comments. Even I see non-black white people who you don't understand how racist certain comments can be. So even if somebody pushes back and says, I don't know anybody who doesn't care about black people, it just feels like it's diminishing the conversation that we're trying to have. That you don't need to say, I have black friends or I care. Then act upon it and actively do the things that are going on. Call your city representatives, as Corinne encourages. See if police officers in your city, in your community, are required to wear body cameras. Do the due diligence. We can easily be social media activists, but if we're not really doing those things, and we're not known for doing those things, and one of my favorite things I heard someone say is, you shouldn't call yourself an ally. Let other people call you an ally. And I remember hearing that, going, oh wow, like I could say I'm an ally all I want, but if nobody recognizes me as an ally, then I'm not an ally. So white people, I know we have the capacity to do good. I know we're smart. And this is not about shaming or guilting anybody. It's about taking on the conviction and the responsibility and recognizing we have failed as a society. These systemic injustices are on us, are on me. I'm not pointing a finger. I feel a responsibility for the society that we have, in which Black people are still being lynched today. These are modern day lynchings. So you might think that people don't care. You might think that you care, but then how do you care? Show that. Can you look at this list of 75 things and say you're doing something today, one thing a day, one thing a week, one thing a month? Again, I'm not a guilt person, and I don't think shame works, but love and responsibility does. And I know I lose connections because of this. I'm okay with that. Even Bravemaker, we didn't get certain supporters. We lost a support of a church because we were advocating for LGBTQ rights. I think there are many people who are afraid to take stands on racial issues. I get it, because I was there too. I was hesitant. I don't want to get in fights. I feel like I'm tiptoeing, but I'm throwing that to the wind. If we are offending, then I don't know. That's okay. God will provide what we need. God will provide what we need.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up as someone part of the LGBTQ community. It has to be equality for all. This isn't a black and white thing. You know what I mean? There's inequality. There's groups of us being marginalized, in different ways every day. So we have to just keep, and I'm glad that you do that, risk losing supporters, religious supporters, because you're supporting, the queer community. Because you have to be in alignment with what you believe. And if you believe in equality for black and white people, then you should believe in equality for everyone, regardless of their sexual orientation, their gender, their skin color. Like, you have to be about that,
Mm-hmm.
So I commend you for that, Tonya. And I really appreciate that. And it's, a place I hope we can all get to, we can say, this is who I am. And it's fine. Just start appreciating each other's differences instead of being afraid of them.
Yeah.
It seems like it's all coming down to prejudices. And just to go back to, I'm now in a wheelchair, but I wasn't for 19 years. And I had so many prejudices about the disability community. I had so much ableist ideas that I had to learn and educate myself. And it was those like deep-seated ideas and thoughts and ableist beliefs that really caused me the most trauma after becoming paralyzed. Not even the actual, life with paralysis, but all the misconceptions I had, all the prejudices I had. So yeah, we're not here to judge. Like, we're very humbly approaching this issue of racism. We're all capable of doing something terrible, so we shouldn't be judging. We should just be, like you said, loving and informing one another and sharing information that's helpful and trying to move the needle forward with equality.
And lives are at stake as we do this, right? Yeah. Lives are literally at stake. People will either be alive or dead based on our silence or not. I think, regarding racial violence, also regarding women, right? This week we were supposed to be having a conversation around the protection of women through a documentary, which I'm sad we didn't get a chance to do it, but I still want to elevate too in this conversation that women are still an oppressed community. Yeah. Marginalized community in our world. Men, can I ask you to acknowledge that, to talk about this, talk about how, I'll talk about it for myself. I have benefited from a patriarchal society. I've benefited from white supremacy. I've benefited from a straight, cisgender, heteronormative way of life. And I really feel a responsibility to speak about this. And I think, again, for my kids, I think about for adults and people, I want to see lives change, but I know our children are watching. And so even as you're commenting, what's that?
And they're emulating.
Yeah, they're watching. They're seeing how we attack this. They're seeing how we talk about this. They're seeing how we comment about this. LGBTQ kids are looking at their leaders, world leaders, their faith leaders, their family leaders, their neighbors, their schools, teachers. How do they handle such issues about gender equity and sexual orientation, acceptance and inclusion? If your comments even in this post today seem like they're coming from a defensive place, it might be something to be aware of and go, what is in me? I believe we all have things inside of us that we need to address. And I hope we can do it with peace and patience. Thank you to Corey, who said, if we aren't offending, we aren't learning. She said, aren't. I think sometimes we could, I've had people who use that, like, I don't care what people say, I'm going to offend everybody because we're learning, and I don't want to get to that extreme. But I think we have to live in such a way that we don't really let what people might think of us, the end result, how we might look in the end, prevent us from doing what we think is right. And sometimes,
Right.
What is not right, what is right isn't always the easy thing to do. And that's sometimes what we have to get over is, are we willing to do what is hard? Because sometimes that's usually what is right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Could I read a Martin Luther King Jr. quote? This is not one of his famous ones, but I think it's really profound, especially for the conversation that we're having right now. Every man of humane convictions must decide on the protest that best suits his convictions, but we must all protest. So we have to stop turning away, turning off the TV, the podcast, turning off whatever is informing you of something that is difficult for you to face. Like, I'm asking you to turn and face it head on and really look within yourself to see what part of you is reacting negatively towards it and why. Do you feel like you're not empowered? Because I feel like that's always maybe like the root cause when we ignore issues, is that we don't feel like we're empowered in that area. We don't feel like we can have impact. And so we don't want to deal with, feeling deficient or like there's lack within us. So.
Yeah, that's really humbling, because I think sometimes what prevents me is I am afraid to say I'm afraid to say the wrong thing. I don't want to be judged for even trying, but I think stepping forward, it's going to come. We're going to fail. It's okay, and I know social media isn't the best place always to do it, but we can start there. And just be aware, you don't need to come in, guns blazing and trying to, do all the damage possible. But just by saying things like, hey, Black Lives Matter, I know gets a response from people. Or just posting about George Floyd. So we didn't even talk about that, but a man who lost his life this week under the knee of a police officer in Minnesota. Right now in Minnesota, there are riots, there are protests going for good reason, demanding justice for a man who was accused of forgery, who did not resist arrest, who was then handcuffed, and for 7, 8, 9 minutes, the weight of a 200-pound man in authority in his neck, a knee in his neck, while he screamed for his mother, while he screamed, "I can't breathe," while he screamed for help, and people tried to. These things are so traumatizing to the Black community, which one of my friends posted and pointed out yesterday, and I take this to heart because I've done this in the past. We, white people, have to be careful with how we repost these stories and reshare these stories, especially in video form. I know that this is another way that Black community are re-traumatized. My friend said every time she sees these videos and stories, it's like she can't help but envision it's her dad or her brother. How we, as the white community, share these stories, we have to be really careful with that, because we could be causing more pain and oppression. So I'm just thankful that I can learn from those of you in the Black community who are doing this work. It's not your job. It's not your job, Black friends and family. It's not your job to tell me, to make me anti-racist. It's not. And I think, to my white friends, to my white family, we've got to let the Black community off the hook for trying to teach us and tell us what it's like. That's more marginalizing to the Black community when we cross our arms. Even I'll just say this to to myself, to white people like myself, when we're engaging in these conversations and we want to ask questions or ask for evidence or ask for Black advocates to defend their experience, even that reflects the racism within us, within me. We might ask the questions like, well, was there justification to that officer's arrest? Did that person have a record? Any type of question that we ask that might put that victim on trial again, or put a Black person on trial to defend their racist experience, communicates that we have a bias within ourselves that we can't accept. We can't believe a Black person. The same goes with a woman who shares about her harassment, how we put that woman on trial. So I say that humbly, to my white friends and family, and to our Brave Maker community. This is part of the work that we exist to do, is to elevate these conversations. I know it's hard, and I know we'd rather avoid it, but it's so necessary because it'll do good for us and our soul to acknowledge these things are issues. Yeah,
definitely. We have a hard time interacting with the victims. We have a hard time feeling like a victim ourselves. And so it's when someone says, this is what happened to me. Well, what did you do? We want to see, well, what was your culpability in that? And it's not the loving, compassionate, beneficial way to go about situations like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if there are any final thoughts or words or comments, we'll be on for about 5 more minutes. But Krystina, is there anything you want to say to, as we close? Again, you are not on the hook to teach me how to be an anti-racist, but to your Black family, to your friends and sisters, to the LGBTQ plus community, to the disabled community, you represent so many in these spaces. What thoughts do you have for self-care, taking care of yourself when this is all piled on top of us in a pandemic, right?
I want to right in the camera and say to everyone in the LGBTQ community, African Americans, women, people with different abilities, if you're feeling like there's nothing you can do, you can't have an impact, just start with entertaining the idea that we can end racism, that we can see a landscape of equality for all of us. It's what we all want. It is the dream. It is what Martin Luther King Jr. was talking about. It is the American dream. He wanted to see equality where we were all equal, where we didn't see stories like this so frequently or at all. So that's what I want to say. Feel empowered, feel encouraged, know that you can have an impact, know that you can bring about the change that you want to see in your life. Don't feel like your hands are tied. There's nothing you can do. It's gone on so long. It's out. It's not. It is within your power to have impact. And I just want you to believe that. And then if we could share, what was it? The website, the 75 things that white people could do, and also the book about anti-racism, just start calmly educating yourself. You don't have to take to the internet and start, saying and doing just educate yourself and be humble, because we can all, have biases and prejudices, and we do, and that's what makes it difficult to interact with one another. So feel empowered and take action. That's my final thought on it.
Thank you, Krystina. The website will be in the chat below, so we'll share that with you all. If you want to follow Krystina, go to her Instagram, Krystina Ray Jackson. Support all this great stuff she's doing, and be on the lookout for her new podcast that's going to come out under Brave Maker about disability, diversity in the arts, with her co-host Christine Burke, who's Miss California Wheelchair 2020. And if there's anything that I can do, as Brave Maker's founder, executive director, I need this. To be perfectly clear, I'm not trying to point a finger, although I hope you will benefit. I hope you will take action. I hope you will join me. I really want to do this for me and for my family, because I need to grow. And I know that I have been a person in many leadership positions, not only in the arts community, in the faith community, in my city where I live, where I'm, talking live here in Redwood City, California. And I take responsibility for that, for making this community better, and for my family and for my kids to grow in awareness that we all have a responsibility. And one of the things on the list that white people can do, this is an easy thing, is watch films. Watch films that promote racial justice stories. Watch Fruitvale Station by Ryan Coogler. Watch Just Mercy that just came out with Jamie Foxx and Michael B. Jordan by Destin Daniel Cretton. Watch Blind Spotting, another friend of mine reminded me of an Oakland story. Watch these films and be willing to have these conversations humbly. That's why we exist. We love the fact that films are powerful story. Brave stories change the world, and you are the story. Boom, boom, boom. By the way, if you want one of our t-shirts, they are now available. You can go to our website and get them, bravemaker.com/merch. That's right, baby. All of these in all different colors, pink and yellow and black and all this sorts of stuff. But wear it with pride, and know that all of your support, even just watching and contributing here, Thank you for those who were kind and supporting and saying hello. Good dialogue. Keep it up from Joseph.
Thank you.
And if you felt ruffled in any way and you would like to talk one-on-one with us, we're open for that. When shelter in place comes down, we hope we can have more of these type of dialogues. That's kind of what we've prided ourselves on, is doing these dialogues for the public and for community benefit. But until then, all of your support goes to building this online platform that we are going to be doing. We are going to be having more and more of these. If you want to be on our mailing list, go to bravemaker.com/buzz to get the films. We have a slate of films coming out today, 4 films, all made by Latinx filmmakers, and we will talk to them live on Friday afternoon. So I hope you can join us for that. Yeah, great. Thanks, Krystina.
Thank you, Tony.
I'm happy. Thanks for this time. Remember, you are the story, everybody. Live it well. Until next time. See ya.